I don't care. Why I always forget
I
them?
do not
Because
know.
my thinking is always like, wouldn't that be nice if there is some the what do you call it? The
Microphone?
mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mic that will be like not in front of your face, but just in the air. You just
Yeah.
speak. So I know they have the lab, whatever, but anyway, very excited to be with you guys. Welcome to
You
Geopolitics.
probably need to.
Well, I have to look at them, right?
You can pull
let
it
me
closer if
let
you
me
need
pull
to.
this up to me right here. All right,
David has
guys.
many strengths, guys, but
Yeah,
technology is a little,
fine for me.
little
So,
iffy.
anyway, very excited to be with you guys, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict show. Today, what is it? February 6th?
Sixth?
Where
Yeah.
time goes. So, very excited
Crazy.
to be with you guys. And we have an interesting topic. Yes, we're not going to talk about Middle East. We've done enough of that. Even though we're going to be mentioning that later on when we go to Rumble,
Hmm.
because there are some few things we need to be mentioned over there. Also, remember to join us on the locals on
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah, that's
Yep,
when
you
is that
got
when
it.
we're
You
gonna
got
have
it.
it. Yeah. Oh, I'm starting to catch up on all this
Yes,
stuff.
you are.
Did you know how many things goes through my head when I wake up? Like how many things I have to think about to do and all that?
I
Literally,
think I can probably
literally,
sympathize.
it's kind of so. And what I added now more is
Hmm.
I have to also think about I'm fixing my car, and I'm also
Yeah.
it took me on Sunday. It took me 7 hours.
Oh, wow.
So, but it is what it is.
Well, you
I
know
don't
what?
complain.
Ask my husband to help. He's very
Well,
handy.
I'm not. I don't complain. Complaining was never. So anyway, very excited. By the way, guys, please type in where you are joining us from. I'm gonna take a look quickly
We
here.
got a couple already.
Yeah, Alam Seen, as always, good to see
Oh, it's
you.
good to see
Coach
you.
Chohoy from Malaysia, as always. Did you know Coach Chohoy has been with us since the beginning of way back? Good to see you, as
It's good to
always.
see you.
Partha, good to see you. Partha is from Mumbai.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, good to see you, as always. Timeline Dunkley from New York City, as always. Hunter Biden. What?
Well, we got
What?
Hunter Biden up on the up on this
Well, if you
feed.
are Hunter Biden, we're gonna have to talk, man. It's reality. They ain't gonna be hiding under you, daddy. So we're gonna talk. So good to see you. Taiwan Street, still as always, good to see you guys. Anyway, very excited to be with you. And the reason we wanted to address this topic, which has to do with because the first thing that comes to mind, it has to be why the heck the US is stockpiling weapons in Australia? That's
That
like
fundamentally is the
the
question,
question.
right?
Yeah.
Because, before a conflict, we at least typically get some kind of reason, right?
For yeah.
For the conflict. And usually it's because democracy or because whoever it is doesn't
here is
like
that
our
word
freedoms,
again.
okay?
That word
Right.
again.
So it's typically something like that,
Yeah.
right? But this is a very interesting, and so this isn't new, right? This is
Yeah.
a new discovery. This is something new that sort of the world is finding out right now. But this actually happened a year ago. So a year ago, during a particular naval drill or joint
Yeah.
drill, because it
Yeah.
wasn't just the United States, they dropped off and left a bunch of equipment there. But that wasn't what they told everyone, right? What
Yeah.
they told everyone is they did this big joint exercise, and oh my gosh, they do it every year. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
normal. This is
Yeah.
very standard. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. But what they secretly did was they left a whole bunch of weapons there, so that when wartime did come around, potentially there would already be a weapons stockpile in Australia, because we are very far away. Physically, the United States is very far away from China, very far away from Taiwan. And so staging areas in those areas are critical to being able to execute some type of military intervention or military action.
Yeah, that's it's wondering why. And by the way, Australia is not the only country. They do have it also in Philippines, and they do
Mhm.
have it in Japan. Makes you just wonder why the US is working on establishing those stockpiles in those three entities. Of course, the argument has always been made about, well, we're just preparing for in case of conflict with China, a war with China. Well, you and I know, I'm sure you guys know by now, you understand where things are geopolitically.
Yeah.
The US is in no position to fight a war. Let's just say it straightforward, because we don't have, what's the word I'm looking for?
Enough.
No, it's not. I was going to say there is something lacking, first of all, in the whole military establishment. It's cohesiveness.
Oh,
Doesn't
sure,
exist.
absolutely.
That's one. Second, the nature of now the members of the U.S. Armed Forces. And again, no offense to anybody. I was a former military myself.
Yeah.
But today, the mindset of the soldiers completely different from what it was back then.
Absolutely.
Today, you have to worry about how they feel versus how they think.
Well,
this is why we have this woke sort of thinking of.
But in a sense, don't you actually think that that's a good thing? Like, in a way, isn't that a good thing? So it's a good thing and a bad thing, right?
A good thing because.
Okay, so hear me out here. Hear me out.
Yeah.
And I know there's a picture, so you guys can't see us, but we're getting kind of heated.
Yeah.
So hear me out here.
Yeah.
If you have a force that doesn't want to fight wars,
okay,
what are you going to get more of? You're going to get more pushback. You're going to get more people saying, we don't actually want to fight these wars. We don't actually want to go do this, right? After World War II, during World War II, we had a very clear big enemy, right? It was, you guys know what it was. I can't say the word on YouTube because we're going to get demonetized. By the way, guys, a bunch of our videos have been getting demonetized
you believe that?
lately.
Yeah.
So if you would like to support us, please check out our locals. It's a growing community on locals. It's geopolitics.locals.com. So if you'd like to support us, we would very much appreciate it, because YouTube is
YouTube
demonetizing a bunch of our videos. But okay, so hear me out on this, right? And I'd love to hear you guys' opinion also. But if you have less willing participants, so the military, the US military has two really big problems. One of them is recruitment. And there's a theory that ties recruitment to what's happening in the border, because the border crisis, who is primarily coming in?
Yeah.
It's young military aged men, right?
Yeah,
and it's mostly men. It's not mostly women and children.
Yeah.
It's mostly military aged men, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a population that doesn't want to go to war and won't keep supporting the war, because look at what's happening right now. So Joe Biden, if you guys don't know, here in the United States, what did he just try to push through?
The
border bill.
The border bill, yeah.
What else was in the border bill?
But do you know when they did that, by the way?
What, the border bill, or recently when they nixed it?
When the conversation about that took place in Congress. Do you know when?
It happened secretly. I know that.
Yeah, when? What day?
I don't know.
Sunday.
Yeah, I do know
Sunday.
that. Yeah.
It's not a business day. Why the heck is Congress meeting on Sunday?
But you know why.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know why, because no one's reading the
Most
news
Americans
on Sunday. No one's paying attention during the weekend. But that bill got the kibosh. Why?
$117 billion. That's going through to both Ukraine and Israel.
And Israel.
Yeah. But anyway, that is, but my idea, I mean, I see your point. It's just the idea, also thinking about this preparation for war, that we never fought a war. The last one was World War II. And the idea of us winning doesn't even ring a bell, because the last time we got involved in a war, and by the way, historical records have been manipulated.
Yeah.
We didn't win the war. Let's just say it straightforward. We contributed to the Allies winning the war. That's two different, the way you word it to others.
Well, Columbus discovered America, right? Remember, David? That used to be what we were taught, right? Columbus discovered
yeah. But this is the idea of now this arguments of, well, we got to stockpile weapons for what for? Why? And to me, it was the idea of, and I've been aware of the statements by the Jens Stoltenberg, Secretary of NATO, the idiot warmonger. So when he was saying, we're going to have to open an office in Japan. And right there, the moment I read that press release from the headquarters, NATO headquarters in Brussels, the moment I read it, the first question that came to mind is, why is NATO going to Asia for? I mean, It's North Atlantic Treaty Organization. North Atlantic has nothing to do with Asia.
Mhm.
Then, you know what I did?
Hmm.
I went back to one of my articles I wrote way back
Mhm.
and linked what I wrote back then to what was said by Stoltenberg, because back then
Mhm.
it was the conversation about how China's going to become now a concern for NATO.
Right.
So I tracked my own articles and went back to it, looked at it, read it again, and it's like,
Mhm.
now it makes sense to me. This is what I always talk about, guys.
Yeah.
Think of the big picture. Don't ever look at when it comes down to geopolitics. You can't be looking and one item and say, this is it.
Right.
There are moving parts to it because nothing happens in a vacuum when it comes down to geopolitics. It is. You think about the statement of NATO, okay? You think about why South Korea and the United States and Japan. Remember when they met at Camp David?
Yeah.
When both the Prime Minister of Japan and So the Yoon So, the head of the South Korea, came to Camp David
Mhm.
in the summer.
Mhm.
You know, all this was because they want to sort of form some sort of an alliance
Yeah.
to all this. And now you find out about the stockpiles that's been there for ages.
Yeah.
Makes you just wonder.
Well, no, absolutely. And is now a good time to bring in
Oh
this
yeah, let's do
interview?
that one.
So there's an interview. It's on C-SPAN too.
I was gonna watch
Uh,
C-SPAN.
Well, I think
let
that's
me
the deal,
share
right?
let me share quickly a story with you guys. Do you want me to share a story about C-SPAN?
absolutely, absolutely.
Did you know in Congress, and I was in DC back then, anytime there is an intelligence hearing, when it comes down to the intelligence committee,
Yeah.
because there are intelligence committee where it deals with a very classified stuff. Now, for that one, when you go to the conference room, whatever, even the windows will have to be blocked. Of course, everything, because that entity or that room, rather, or conference, whatever you want to call it, they had to run the eavesdropping equipment to make sure whatever. So, well, usually C-SPAN is granted access to everything else except that particular
Interesting
intelligence committee.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the topic they talk about. And those are classified at a level beyond top secret, which they are about 4 level. Almost 5.
Yeah.
They all classified, the word itself.
Right.
Classified. So my point is, C-SPAN usually have access to that.
They do.
So that's why it was on C-SPAN, because average Joe, average Jane here in the US will not watch C-SPAN.
I'm not even sure they know C-SPAN exists.
Yeah. Well, it does. It does have links to the government.
Oh, of course.
The channel. If the government wants to release certain information, they will go through C-SPAN.
Well, and so C-SPAN is actually very interesting because most people, if you know that C-SPAN exists, it's a bunch of these interviews and these meetings and things that are very jargon heavy, right? They're very jargon heavy. The average person cannot understand them for anything. And it's surprising actually how little C-SPAN sort of gets credited in media.
There is a reason for that.
What is the reason?
It's because a deal has been cut between members of Congress and C-SPAN. I'll grant you'll push my image in return for I'll leak information for you. The members of Congress doing it with others. That's why you always see, for example, Fox, CNN, whatever. They have some pre-arrangements behind.
Oh, absolutely.
As a matter of fact, the Prime Minister of Israel got into one of the issues of his corruption. You know what? Beside the other thing, it was a case where he made a deal with the particular paper, news outlet, whatever that is, in Israel. He will grant them interview in return for painting a good picture of him.
Well, and honestly, that's like a really normal thing, right?
Politics,
like it's politics. And how often do you hear a politician or a government deny something, deny it, and then all of a sudden, oh, just kidding, it was actually
that's true.
We'll talk about that a little bit. So that actually just happened in Ukraine.
Yeah.
and we'll talk about that on Rumble.
Rumble, yeah, we can. There are a few
Immediately
things
after
we
this,
can.
guys.
Oh, let's see this
all right,
interview here.
Let's take a look at it. So this is
who's
this
doing?
is the Army Secretary, Christine
Oh,
Wormuth.
okay.
And so she's actually talking about this situation. She's talking about the training exercises, which is called Talisman Saber. And it happened last year. And it's something that happens typically every year. It's happened every year for a while. But the different part in this situation is that they left behind 330 vehicles and trailers and 130 containers in a warehouse in southeastern Australia. Okay. So, but here, what she's talking about is she's actually directly talking about the fact that their plan is to create these strategic bases all over that area because they have to, because of the distance. So she's actually talking about that. And that's something that to me is, you know, if I were another country, particularly the country that I think is in question here, I would have a real issue knowing that this was sort of openly going on. But this isn't something that's typically talked about. But so this is Army Secretary Christine Wormuth.
Then build up and then secure and protect staging bases for the Navy, for the Marines, for the Air Force, you know, and that's why we're really building out our integrated air and missile defense capabilities, for example, to be able to protect those kinds of staging bases that are going to be key. The second really big thing we're doing, you know, also about being a linchpin is sustaining the joint force. And that's where those theater distribution centers come into play.
You always talk about sustaining the joint force, more or less, right? You always talk about who's included in the joint forces. And here she is talking about why it's important to sustain those relationships, particularly for the use of their locations, of their bases.
We offer the opportunity to provide secure communications to the broader force, to provide intra-theater sustainment, you know, setting up munition stockpiles, setting up
intra-theater sustainment.
Yeah.
By the way, do you see how jargon heavy this is?
Oh, yeah. Average Joe, average Jane is going to be like, what is she talking about? But this is also gives you an idea about why Philippines has been sucked into this with the recent arrangements that they granted 4 bases to the U.S., additional bases, actually. They won 4. Did you know? They won 4. They were 9, based on what I found. Only 4 were declared.
Yeah.
So the question is, what are the other 5 for?
Well, I think she said it. I think she just straight up said it.
Yeah.
You know what
but
I mean?
Also the key question to all that also is what type of weapons is going to be on those 5.
Absolutely. So she actually talks a little bit more about that. She talks about long range missiles. She talks about short range weapons. If you guys want, I can put this interview.
Yeah.
Here, why don't I do that right now? Actually, so that you guys
this way they can listen to it later on.
But because she does actually dive into that a little bit.
Well, yeah, but they're not gonna disclose really. I mean, I'm talking about nukes here. I'm talking about certain type of nukes that will be even the host country will not even know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Or I'm sure because they're not allowed access to it.
Yeah. So the idea that Philippines and Japan and South Korea, for that matter, I'm sure they do realize that they are putting a target on their backs now. It's because hypothetically, should there be a conflict, which I don't foresee at this time, military one, I don't foresee at this time. It will become a very, very problematic because who's gonna? I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about China here.
Right.
What China? It's no small matter when it comes down to its reach as far as locations.
Right.
So all those countries, whatever the U.S. assets are, because strategically, if you are to think from a military perspective, what you're gonna do? The first thing you do, you cut off any supply line.
Right.
That's the first thing you do.
Right.
You cut off any radars, any whatever.
Right.
That's the basic stuff of military. And in this case, because you got a country like Philippines, like Japan, like South Korea, and now Australia. Because Australia, if you think about Australia 10 years ago, how much did you hear about Australia? None.
Very little. I mean, we had the oh my gosh, who's that guy? He's wonderful. Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin
was fantastic.
Yeah. That's all you will
Got
hear
that
about
done.
Australia. Yeah. So it was the idea. Even their trade with China was doing well.
Yeah,
Their economy
yeah.
was doing well. We suck them into the
Right.
orbit of conflicts. Look where they are right now. I
Right.
mean, this is where part of where that problem. I want to say thank you here to Lemon. Oh, thank you so much,
Thank
Lemon.
you. Yes, we very much
Truly
appreciate
appreciate you for that. Truly appreciate you, super sticker, for that.
Well,
So this is where the issue is the idea of now those three countries, at least Australia will be separate from Philippines, South Korea, and Japan,
mhm.
putting a target on their back.
Yeah.
So, do you think China's going to have to say, oh, no, those are Asian countries? No, they're going to have to target to eliminate the threat.
Yeah.
And this is what they are not realizing. And now with having this information come up, that's the reason why we wanted to address this.
Yeah.
Because no one else is talking about
Yeah.
it.
They're
So-
not. I mean, this was like a passing like blip.
Yeah.
I think in the Western media, but this happened a year ago, right? This
know.
isn't
That
this
tells
isn't
you,
brand new.
yeah.
But the information is just
Yeah.
now getting to us that this is happening,
Yeah.
right?
And this is tied also to a Virginia-class nuclear submarine, which is going to be
Another
in
big
Perth,
point.
by
Yep.
the way.
Yep.
A lot of Australians do not understand that this type of nuclear-class submarines
Mhm.
ain't going to be operated by the Aussies.
Yeah. Well,
It
and
would be
that's
the
not even the
Americans.
point. Do you remember when that actually came out, right? So when we
Yeah.
all found out that the US was going to have a rotating base in Australia, okay?
Rotating.
Right, a rotating base.
Yeah.
So
We
the
all know what it
problem-
means.
Right. The problem with a rotating base is that there's always someone there. So
That's not rotating.
that's not, yes,
That's
that's not
occupying.
right.
That's what it
not
is.
quite
So,
rotating.
yeah.
And so we also have that. We also have the submarine base
Yeah.
in Australia. So, you're looking at little drips of a conflict before it begins.
Well, that's usually how it does. You have to move gradually, especially
Yeah.
for an area like this. It's because your big concern is you dealing with a formidable,
Yeah.
what you want to call it, enemy, challenge, whatever.
Yeah.
Because China is not your average country when it comes down to military capabilities.
No.
Let's just say it straightforward here. So the idea, that's why I don't see personally at this time, I don't see a military conflict because it will create.
Mhm.
US is not ready for that. China is not ready for that. China doesn't want that. You look at their progress where they are versus why would you want to even get involved in? But we keep pushing.
Yeah.
This is why now you see, to me personally, I'll tie all this to what just took place in Taiwan regarding the local elections.
Yeah,
you
they're
know.
looking.
I know we use the term president. He's not a president. He's
Right.
almost a governor of sort or president, but we give it that narrative because we
Right.
wanted to justify the argument. Now, where the narrative, or rather
Mhm.
not the argument, where I see the difference, of course, if that guy goes out of his or being pushed by the US to go ahead and declare independence, which it will be suicide anyway,
Yeah.
ain't gonna happen. Second, and the US already made it clear to Taiwan that
Yeah.
don't get crazy here. But I won't trust that.
Yeah.
I won't trust what the US saying. We're saying this publicly,
Mhm.
but behind closed doors, we pushing the narrative.
Yeah.
Did you know that before those elections, who was in Taiwan? It was the National Security Advisor.
Oh yeah. I was like Nancy Pelosi. But
Well, she was.
Yeah.
Her reasons were different,
Yeah.
but that was after that.
Right.
It was about a month and a half prior to the elections.
Mhm.
That's why a National Security Advisor went
Right.
quietly.
Right.
So, and my point in all this is to highlight now, when all of a sudden you hear about stockpile of weapons,
Mhm.
what for?
No, that's a great question.
Yeah, what for? And this is where my big concern: NATO opening an office in Tokyo,
Mhm.
because to me, Japan, South Korea, and Philippines, to a degree, they don't seem to have a say into what's going on.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it's no different than the European Union.
Absolutely. I mean, in both cases, it's smaller countries that are more or less stuck between two very large entities,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's the US and Russia, let's say.
I will have to
Or-
push against that. I will
Okay.
have to push against that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
ready. Let's
because
do
it's
it.
because they stuck there by choice.
Well, I don't know that they can move.
No, they can, because I'll give you an example.
Okay.
When Duterte, you know who he was, right? The
Okay.
former of
Yeah.
Philippines.
Yeah.
When he was in power, Where was Philippines at that time? Yes, they still had ties to America to a degree because of security treaty.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, he's saying, no, I ain't going to do whatever
Mhm.
because I care about the trade that I have with China.
Absolutely.
Now you have Marcos Jr. or Marcos Jr.
Yeah.
Marcos. Bong Bong.
Bong
Bong Bong.
Bong.
So what is he doing? All of a sudden flipped in no time. Why did he flip?
Well, but that's why. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but that is where the difference is.
Yeah.
Small countries, they still have a say if they want to. You're going to have to challenge the status quo.
Well, although I agree with
Yeah.
that, okay, I absolutely agree. You are supposed to challenge, especially as a leader, you are held to a higher standard. Absolutely.
Well,
held to a
not
higher
Bong
standard.
Bong because he's worrying
Yes,
about his
yes.
assets right here in the
But
US.
how many leaders who go against, we'll say
The US.
You know who
Yeah,
at
yeah,
this point. Okay.
Yeah.
How many of those leaders end up dead?
You're right about this one. That is
Or
correct.
something magical happens to them.
That
and all
is
of a sudden
correct.
they're gone, or their plane crash. Oh my gosh, I don't know how their
I
plane
agree
crashed,
with you.
right?
I agree with you.
So there is, or for example, the IMF loans that they're under. There are a lot of countries right now that are under IMF loans that they got decades ago that they're still stuck under. And this isn't crazy. We know that they're still paying them off.
Yeah,
right?
but they still can take stand because in the case of Philippines, to my knowledge, because at
Mhm.
that time I was aware of one particular aspect that he got concerned about. You
Yeah.
know what it was?
What?
Because they were pushing him to do that. He said, well, you guys want me to go to a war with China?
Mhm.
You're out of your mind. Then later on, he said, yeah, this is why
Yeah.
probably I will end up dead by the agency.
See?
I know, but at least he showed that
Yeah.
it took stand. He's still alive. As a matter of fact, now he's
Good for
pushing
him.
against.
Good for him.
He's pushing against Marcos Jr. right
Yeah.
now. There are tensions in Philippines regarding that.
Mhm.
Do you see the same thing in Japan? Do you see the same thing in South Korea?
No.
And now do you see the same thing in Australia?
Well,
No.
the thing is, so okay, guys, before you get to me in the comments, I am absolutely not arguing that leaders should be held to a higher standard and should do the right
Yeah.
thing for their people. Of all people on this planet, that's what I would fight for. Okay.
Yeah.
I very much believe that leaders should be held to the standard of protecting their people no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay. No
That's
matter
the
what.
right thing to do.
I am saying that there are circumstances
That's true.
that are impacting, number one, who ends up in leadership positions.
Yeah.
Because there are very many situations where there are elections, but even the people who live there don't think that was a fair election,
Fair
right?
elections, yeah.
Or the only candidates are candidates that are more or less have been handpicked. We have had that problem here in the United States. If we had more than 2 people to vote, like we're handed up the people that we get to vote for. And if we had the pick of everyone in the country, we would not have chosen either of those 2 people.
Well, actually, we
right?
always had this. That's why we have the electoral college. I vote for what I want. And the
Right.
electoral college end up picking up whatever they want. So where is democracy into this?
No, most people don't even know the electoral college exists.
Exists. Yeah. In America, it's
Yeah.
the electoral college that picks the president, not the
It's
voters.
not voters.
So
yeah.
where is this democracy? I know it's nothing but hypes on this, but just to go back to that point, the idea of I understand what you're saying, and I am in agreement with you to a degree regarding this one.
Right.
But still, you have to take stand
I
when
agree.
it matters.
Absolutely.
Well, you look at Europe right now.
Yeah.
Does anybody taking one guy that is taking stand so far? Orban. But look what they just did.
Look what they just did to him,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. Well, that becomes now on him.
Yeah.
He has to consult with his people.
Mhm.
Do you guys want me to pull the country out of the AU altogether?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to turn it to the people in a referendum?
Absolutely.
This is why we don't have a referendum in America.
Yeah.
We don't have one. In a democracy, you're supposed to have a referendum. And basically, what is it? You turn over the issue to people to decide.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So to me, if I were
Absolutely, yeah.
advising Orban and I said, you go on a TV,
Mhm.
address the nation and tell them you have 2 choices here.
Mhm.
Do you want me pull out of the AU? Because AU is going down anyway. Or do you want me stay?
Yeah.
Simple as that. Because that's for a whole country.
Absolutely.
Well, he's not doing that. So to me, to me my point. And of course, he thinks differently, and everybody is right to
Yeah.
has the right to think whatever way they want. The way I look at it, if I were in charge, that is what I will do. Because it's a matter of principle, you have to take stand.
Yeah.
You can't be wishy-washy. I understand how politics is. I used to work in DC.
Well, but here's the thing, right? So now the world knows, and guys, let me know in the comments how many of you guys got coverage on the EU's secret plan to destroy their economy if Orban didn't basically go along with the $50 billion plan, or 50 billion euros, sorry,
yeah.
50 billion euro plan for Ukraine for the next 4 years, right?
Yeah.
How many of you guys actually got news coverage of that?
Yeah.
How many of you guys know about that? Because here in the United States, that was something that was reported. It was a blip, right? Like it was a little blip, but it was reported.
Well, because it was in coordination with Victoria Nuland's trip to Kiev and the statements by the head of the military in Ukraine, who was clashing with the comedian Zelensky.
Yes. So
Well,
we'll
it's
talk
because
about that on Rumble.
because the evil Victoria Nuland had to go over there to sell things, but they were selling the arguments of a new strategy. Strategy based on what? On the monetary gain that is good.
Right.
Before I forget, guys, if you can answer one question in the chat box: should Hungary withdraw its membership from the EU? Yes or no? Please, if you can leave that in the chat box, we will be great. I'm also want to say thank you to Army with Harmony.
Oh, hey!
Thank you so
Nice
much
to
for
see
your
you.
super sticker. You put, what value will Taiwan possess once U.S. microprocessing production is back in the U.S. and up and running? Will it still be something to fight over?
Okay, that's a great question.
Thank you so much for your super sticker.
And that's a very okay. So
Let's
yes,
answer
for
that one.
Hungary.
Let's
Yeah.
answer that one.
And thank you guys. I see. And all right, cool. Yes, that's a phenomenal question.
Let's answer the first part of it.
Okay.
The US ain't gonna have microchip production.
Fundamentally, okay. So there's two issues to that.
Yeah.
First of all, we do not have the infrastructure for the level of microchip that they're building in Taiwan. We don't. Not only do we not have the physical infrastructure, which takes years to build.
Yeah.
Okay. We also don't have the human infrastructure. We
manpower
don't have the manpower.
The brain
power. I guess that's the way to say it. So right now, if you look at even our university levels, so this is happening across the board. It's happening across large corporations. It's happening across government jobs. The requirements are getting slashed so that you don't even need a college degree at all to be able to apply to these jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's anywhere from 90 to 40% of jobs will no longer require college degrees at all, because college attendance levels are dropping to that extent.
Yeah.
Okay. But we do not have the skilled workers to work in the factories like that, in the microchip plants. And so I know that Biden keeps talking about this, and I know that there are other YouTubers who are like, "Oh, it's coming back. The infrastructure is coming back."
It's not.
They're trying, but we're years away from that. We would have to get an entire generation of young people to basically go to college for this, which they're not even going to college at all, because it doesn't make sense to go. It's so expensive. You spend the rest of your life in debt for what?
Speaking of that, before I forget,
sorry, this is like totally
no, it's all right. There's one state, either Iowa or Ohio, one of the others. Now they're paying kids to go to school, which was
they have to
So
because
it's very,
they're
very
so
concerning.
expensive, and people know it.
Yeah. Let me go back to this question that I asked. Eric QN. I did, yes and no. It can be both, either or, because this is what I'm saying about the idea of when a leader has to make a decision, you can be this or that, either this or that, but you consult with your constituents. And this is why for us in the US, we don't even have a referendum, because we're removing it. You're laughing. What's going on?
Keith Stone, skilled workers like at Boeing.
Oh, yeah, because of is it the plane or something?
So apparently, okay, so you know the story. Oh God, this is terrible. Okay, these poor people were so traumatized.
Yeah.
So the door blew
came
off
out.
the Boeing. Okay.
Yeah.
So now they're finding that there are tons of problems with these Boeing airplanes, like
Ooh.
that the holes, the like bolt holes are misdrilled.
Oh my
Like
God.
there's tons of problems with these
Yeah.
Boeing aircrafts. And
I know.
so
I know.
yes, Keith Stone, yes,
Yeah,
just
that's
like
why.
it,
Yeah, this thing's not
just
gonna
like
work.
it Boeing.
So the idea of them arguing that, well, the U.S. gonna be,
Mm.
American hegemony and global dominance, it's over.
Yeah.
Let's just say it straightforward. The whole Western dominance, it's over.
Yeah.
And this is why you're going to be, to me, my thinking was, if I were to advise Orban and have a conversation with him, is like, you're going to have to think strategically.
Yeah.
You have to think strategically in terms of, for example, where BRICS might be 10 years from today. I mean, you think about it. Just think about that.
Absolutely.
And again, we're not advocating for any. We're just seeing where the trends are headed.
Right.
European Union now with their economy. You saw the images of the farmers.
Oh, the farmer protests.
I mean,
Absolutely.
how it's about enough is enough.
Yeah.
People have had it to the point of sometimes you're going to have to do what you need to do. But
don't mess with the food, man. Don't mess with the food.
Do you see for us farmers doing that here?
No, I don't think so.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because the government is subsidizing and keeping them quiet.
Right.
But shame on our farmers because they should be in solidarity with the Europeans.
What I will say though is I think we have big agriculture more than we have small farmers like that.
Yeah, we do. But because also if you only know about the food industry, how much involvement they have regarding the GMO and all that stuff. That's another conversation for another day. And people do not know what they are eating. That's why you see in a sick society.
Yeah.
That's the reason for it. I mean, you look at someone in his 50s and look like he's in his 80s.
Yeah.
Why?
Absolutely.
It's because the type of food they consume. So the idea of my point in all this,
yeah,
all it has to do with taking stand. We say we speak the truth. Well, look what YouTube is doing to us. I know.
Yeah.
Shame on you, YouTube. Come on.
Well, I don't know if we can say that, David.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of, to me,
well,
I might keep this for
Rumble, because we love YouTube. We love being able to talk to you guys.
It is nice. I am not denying this.
Absolutely.
I am not denying.
But
YouTube
it also
is
not. It's not great.
Well, it's kind of why. Why all of a sudden we've become this way? When you have to be cherry picking the conversation, cherry picking the wording.
Yeah.
To me, that's what kind of democracy is, either this or that. You can't be wishy-washy.
Right.
It's kind of, I understand about the world of politics and how you have to be diplomatic and politically correct but that's different.
Yeah.
This one here is about raising awareness. This is about presenting the facts to our viewer, to our community, and let them decide for it.
Absolutely.
I have nothing against YouTube. I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got to push back when injustice is applied.
Definitely.
That I have no.
I mean, I agree because I'm the one who has to deal with it on the other end.
It's not right. It's not right.
It's definitely very frustrating, and ultimately it limits what we're able to bring to the table. Like it limits what we're able to do. Yeah. And I think that's my biggest issue with it is why limit voices.
Exactly.
Let them be heard. And if people don't believe it or agree with it, then the people will speak. But let you guys decide, not somebody else who will tell you what to believe.
We will do that on the next platform. By the way, there is the link. Is that the link for it?
Yeah, it's the link.
Okay, that's the link where we're gonna be.
Yeah.
And but I want to say more. We'll say it over there.
Yeah. I think that's.
How about if we go and just finish the conversation over there?
All right. Are you fired up and you ready to go to Rumble?
Yeah. Well, because I'm holding a lot of stuff. I can't talk much.
Okay. Well then, guys, David has spoken. Let's do it.
So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Let's. What do you guys want? You want us to keep talking here, or you want to head out to the other location?
Rumble.
Let's just see their answer because they have to be part of the conversation here. So
Geopolitics, you should publish a code word and tell us where it is. That's funny. Okay. So this is Rumble.
Just put R.
Rumble. All right. There it is. All right.
Let's go.
All
right, guys. We'll see you in about 5 minutes by the time you log in and all that stuff. As always, prepare yourself for changing world order. See you soon. Bye.